Hello everyone, I'm Anjali Sunil, M.Tech Computer Science student of Nehru College of Engineering and Research Center, Pampadi. So today, through this video, we are going to understand about what is Big Data Analytics. So, what is Big Data? The big data is a high volume, high velocity and the high variety information assets that demands the cost effective and the innovative forms of information processing for the enhanced insight and decision making. In short, the big data is defined to be a data that is dealing with the data with huge size. The big data is a term that are used to describe the collection of data that is huge in size and yet growing exponentially with time. There are mainly three types of big data: the structured data, unstructured data, and semi-structured data. Any data that can be stored, accessed, and processed in the form of a fixed format is termed as structured data. The structured data is used to refer to the data which is already stored in the database in an ordered manner. There are mainly two types of structured data: machines and the humans. All the data that are received from the sensors, weblog, and the financial systems are classified as machine-generated data. These include the data from the medical devices and also from the data that we gathered from the GPS. And the human-generated structured data mainly include all the data that the humans input to the computer. And one of the problems with the structured data is that it is dependent and thus it is less flexible. Next is the unstructured data. The unstructured data is just opposite to that of the structured data, where we have said the structured data is having a well structure and the unstructured data is not having any of the structure, or it does not have any of the clear format in the storage. The most of the data a person encounters belong to this category. And in this unstructured also, we are having the two sources, that is the machine generated and the human generated. In this, the machine generated data means the data that we gathered from the satellite or the images that we gathered from the satellite, the various scientific data, etc. And the human generated data include the data from the social media, the mobile data, and the various website content. The pictures we upload to the Facebook or the Instagram, and the videos we watch on the YouTube, the text messages we send, are all the unstructured data. The unstructured data is mainly divided into two: the captured data and the user generated data. The captured data is the data that is based on the user's behavior, and the user generated data is the kind of unstructured data where the user itself will put the data on the internet. There are mainly three characteristics for the big data: volume, variety, and the velocity. The name big data itself is related to the size, which is enormous, and thus the volume of the data is considered to be one of the important characteristics of the big data. The size of the data plays a very crucial role in determining the value out of the data, and whether a particular data can actually be considered as a big data or not is dependent upon the volume of the data. That is, it is based on the size of the data that we are determining whether the particular data that is available is a big data or not. One of the example of the big data is Amazon. As we know, the Amazon handles a 15 million customer clickstream user data per day to the recommended product. And the variety. The variety refers to the heterogeneous sources and the nature of the data that is both structured and unstructured. During the earlier days, the spreadsheet and the database were the only sources of data that is considered by most of the application. Nowadays, the data in the form of emails, photos, PDF, audios, videos, etc. are also considered in the analysis application. That is, nowadays the data are available in the various varieties of forms. Next is the velocity. The velocity refers to the speed generation of the data. That is, how fast the data is generated and processed in order to meet the demands determine the real potential in the data. The big data velocity deals with the speed at which the data flows in from the sources like the business processes, application logs, network, and the social media site. And the flow of the data here is defined to be massive and continuous. There are mainly four importance of big data: the data science perspective, business perspective, real-time usability perspective, and the job market perspective. The data science perspective. This analytics involve the use of advanced techniques and the tools of analytics on the data that are obtained from the different sources in the different sizes. The big data has the properties of high volume, high velocity, and the high variety that we have discussed earlier. And the data set mainly comes from the various online network, the web pages, audio and video devices, social media logs, and also many other sources. The big data analytics involve the use of the analytics techniques like the machine learning, data mining, natural language processing, and the statistics. The data is extracted, prepared, and blended in order to provide the analysis for the businesses. The data analytics mainly involves the qualitative as well as quantitative techniques in order to improve the business productivity and the profit. The data analytics tools are used by the researchers, analysts, and the engineers for the business organization in order to access the data efficiently. The tools used for this purpose are storage and the analysis big data analytics tool. Business perspective. The big data analytics tools and the techniques are rising in the demand due to the use of big data in the businesses. The organization can find the new opportunities and gain new insight in order to run their business efficiently. And these tools mainly help in providing the meaningful information for making the better business decision. And the various companies can improve their strategies by keeping in mind the customer focus. And also the big data analytics efficiently helps the operation to become more effective. And this also helps in improving the profit of the company. And the big data analytics tools like Hadoop mainly helps in reducing the cost of the storage and thus a further increase in the efficiency of the business. And thus, because of all these reasons, nowadays the big data analytics is widely used in the field of business and also in the various other organizations. The real-time usability or the real-time benefit of the big data analytics. There have been an enormous growth in the field of big data analytics with the benefit of the technology. This has led to the use of big data in the multiple industries ranging from the banking, healthcare, energy, in the various technology, for the manufacturing, etc. Job market perspective. With the huge interest and the investment of the big data technology, the professionals carrying the skills of the big data analytics are in the huge demand, and the organization pay an attractive incentives and the packages for the qualified professional nowadays. That is, the IT professionals like engineers and the data administrators can learn the analytics tool for a promising career. This is mainly because the big data analytics provide the cost reduction, they allows the new product and the services, and also the faster and the better decision making. And the various other importance or the various other uses of the big data are the cost saving, time reduction. They will help us to understand the various market condition. It will control the online reputation, and using the big data analytics to boost the customer acquisition and the retention. The use cases of the big data or the applications of the big data. The first one is the fraud prevention. For the credit card holders, the fraud prevention is one of the most familiar use cases for the big data. Even before the advancement of the big data analytics become popular, the credit card issuers were using the rule-based system to help them flag potentially the fraudulent transaction or to understand the various fraud transactions. For example, example, if a credit card were used to rent a car in the city X, but the customer lived in the city Y, so a customer service agent might call to confirm that the card holder was on the vacation and that someone had stolen the card. The fraud prevention systems are the orders of magnitude that better at detecting the criminal activity and also preventing the false positive. That is, by fraud prevention system, we can easily avoid the various fraud activities that are occurring day by day towards us. And the big data analytics can look at the past record of the fraud transaction and also quickly identify the changing trends. The credit card firms and the other consultants offer the technology, advice and the services to the other firms to help them set up the system to stop the various criminal transactions. Next is the security intelligence. One of the theme of the criminal activity organizations are also using the big data analytics to help them from the hackers and the cyber attackers. So by providing the security intelligence, the big data is providing the security for the various private data that we are handling day by day. And the IT department will be generating an enormous amount of the log data which will be having the various cyber threat. So by using the big data analytics, we can provide the security for those kind of data. And the big data solution vary in the different cases in order to provide the security. Next is the price optimization. Both business to consumer and business to business enterprises are also using the big data analytics to optimize the prices that they change their customers that they charge to their customers day by day. For any company, the goal is to set the prices so that they maximize their income. If the price is too high, they will sell only the fewer product, which will decrease their net return. And if the price is too low, they may sell the more number of product, but the profit will be very less. And thus, the big data analytics allow the companies to see which price point have yielded the best overall result under the various historic market conditions. And nowadays, the big data analytics is also used in the field of the social media, because the social media is one of the big data which is dealing with the large amount of the data. And also the big data is also used in the field of the IoT, which is Internet of Things, where we are connecting the various physical devices through our internet in order to gather the various amount of data. The data analytics life cycle mainly consists of 6 steps: discovery, data preparation, model planning, model building, communicate result, and the operationalize. The discovery means that here the team learns a business domain including the relevant history, such as whether the organization or the business unit has attempted the similar project in the past from which they can learn. And the team access the resources that are available in order to support the project in the terms of people, technology, time and the data. The important activities in this phase include framing the business problem as an analytics challenge that can be addressed in the subsequent phases, and also formulating the initial hypothesis in order to test and begin the learning data. In short, the discovery phase is similar to that of the literature survey that we do when we are doing any of the project work. The data preparation. The data preparation requires the presence of an analytics sandbox in which the team can work with the data and perform the analytics for the duration of the project. The analytics sandbox means it is a separate environment that is a part of an overall data-like architecture, meaning that it is a centralized environment that is meant to be used by the multiple users and maintained with the help of the information technology. And the team needs to execute extract, load and transform, or extract, transform and load in order to get into the sandbox. So this both ETL, which is extract, load and transform, and ELT are sometimes abbreviated as ETLT. and the data should be transformed in the ETLT process so the team can work with it and analyze it. Here, the team also need to familiarize itself with the data thoroughly and take steps to condition the data. Model planning. Here the team determines the method, techniques and the workflow it intended to follow for the subsequent model building phase. The team will be exploring the data to learn about the relationship between the variable, and subsequently they will be selecting the key variable and the most suitable model that are required in order to complete the particular project or in order to execute a particular system. Model building. The team develops a data set for testing, training and the production purposes. In addition, in this phase, the team will be building and they will be executing the models that are based on the work done in the model planning phase. And the team also considers whether the existing tools are well enough in order to execute a particular system, and it will also analyze whether there is a need for the extra tools or the techniques in order to complete the particular system. Communicate result. Here, the team in collaboration with the major stakeholders will be determining if the result of the project are a success or a failure based on the criteria that is developed in the phase 1, that is the discovery phase. The team should identify the key finding, quantify the business value and also develop a narrative in order to summarize and convey the findings to the stakeholders. Operationalize. Here, the team will be delivering the final reports, the briefings, the code and the technical documents. In addition, the team may run a pilot project in order to implement the model in the production environment. So when we compare these 5 phases, the phase 1, that is the discovery phase, will be investing more of the project time because this phase require more time towards examining the different steps such as framing the issue, learning the resources, identifying the key stakeholders, learning the business domain, etc. And the phase 5, that is communicate result, will be spending the least time because in that phase we need to check only whether the result of the project is a success or a failure, and that phase requires only a least amount of time. One of the important part of the big data is Hadoop and MapReduce. So now we are going to see about what is Hadoop and what is MapReduce. Hadoop. The Hadoop is defined to be an open source software framework in order to store and process the massive amount of data in a distributed fashion. And the main key aspects of the Hadoop are open source software, distributed, massive storage and the fast processing. The open source software means that the Hadoop is free to download, it is very easy to use and very easy to contribute to. And the distributed means it will be dividing and storing the data across multiple computers, and the computation or the processing is done in parallel across multiple connected nodes. And the massive storage means it will be storing the various amounts of data across a node of low cost commodity hardware. And the faster processing means that the large amount of data is processed in parallel, which will be yielding the quick responses. The various advantages of the big data are low cost, computing power, scalability, storage flexibility and the inherent data protection. The low cost means, as I told before, the Hadoop is an open source framework and it will be using a commodity hardware in order to store the more quantities of the data or the enormous quantity of the data. And because of this, it is very low cost. It can store the data with a low cost. The computing power. The Hadoop is based on the distributed computing model which processes a very large volume of data quickly. And the more the number of computing nodes, the more the processing power at hand. Scalability. This boils down to simply adding the nodes as the system grows and requires much less administration. The storage flexibility. One of the main characteristics or the use of the Hadoop is that in the Hadoop, the data not to be pre-processed before storing it. That is, the Hadoop provides the convenience of storing as much data as needed, and also it will be adding the flexibility of deciding later that how to use that particular stored data. In Hadoop, one can store the unstructured data like images, videos, and free form of the text. The inherent data protection. The Hadoop will be protecting the data as well as the executing application against various hardware failures. If a particular node fails, it will automatically redirect the job that have been assigned to this node to the other functional and the available node, and ensures that the distributed computing do not fail. So in short, if a node fail, it will not affect the entire system, and the failure of a single node can be managed by the Hadoop very easily. HDFS is a Hadoop distributed file system, which is a distributed file system that are used for storing the large amount of data or the large files. And the Hadoop distributed file system mainly consists of name node, data node, and the secondary name node. The name node manages the file-related operations such as read, write, create, and delete. Its main job is managing the file system namespace. A file system namespace is a collection of files in the cluster, and the name node will be storing the HDFS namespace. And the file system namespace mainly include the mapping of blocks to the files, file properties, and it is stored in a file called the FS image. And the name node here uses an edit log, which is also called a transaction log, in order to record every transaction that happens to the file system metadata. Data node. There are multiple data node per cluster, and these various data node will be communicating with each other in the form of a pipeline. And the data node will be continuously sending a heartbeat message to the name node in order to ensure the connectivity between the name node and the data node. And if there is no any heartbeat from the data node, the name node will be replicating that data node within the cluster and keep on running as nothing has happened. Next is the secondary name node. Secondary name node will be taking the part or the snapshot of an HDFS metadata in order to execute the operation. The memory requirement of the secondary name node are same as that of the name node, and it is better to run the name node and the secondary name node on the different machine. And also, in the case of the failure of a name node, the secondary name node can be configured manually in order to bring up the cluster. This is a figure of the name node and the data communication. So here the data node will be sending the heartbeat message to the name node, which will be ensuring the connectivity between the name node and the data node. And if there is no any heartbeat messages sent by the data node to the name node, so the name node will be replicating that particular data node within the cluster. And this is the execution of that particular name node and the data node communication. Some of the drawback of the HDFS is that the low latency data access will not work well with the HDFS, because the HDFS mainly deals with the data that is having the high throughput. And there will be a lot of small files in the name node, where the name node is dividing the files into files into the various small blocks, which will be causing a problem. And the HDFS can be written only by a single writer, and the multiple writers cannot deal with the data that is in the HDFS, that is a Hadoop distributed file system. Because of all these reasons, the Hadoop is not well fit in the today's world. MapReduce. In the MapReduce or in the MapReduce programming, the various jobs or the applications are split into the set of map tasks and the reduce task, and these tasks are mainly executed in a distributed fashion by the Hadoop cluster. In short, the MapReduce is having the two tasks, map and the reduce task. The map task will be taking care of the loading, parsing, filtering, transforming, etc. And the responsibility of the reduce task is grouping and also aggregating the data that is produced by the map task in order to generate the final output. The map task consists of various phases like record reader, mapper, combiner and the partitioner. The record reader, what it does, it will be converting the byte oriented view of the input, that is the input that we are providing into the map reduce task, into the record oriented view and present it to the mapper task. It present the task with the keys and the values, that is the output that are produced by the record reader will be in the form of the key value pairs. And now the output from the record reader will be given as an input to the map task, and the map function will be working on the key value pairs that are produced by the record reader and generate the 0 or more intermediate key value pairs. And the MapReduce will be deciding the key value pairs based on the content. And the output from the map task is now given into the combiner. The combiner is one of the optional field, but it will be providing the high performance in the terms of the network bandwidth and the disk space. It will be taking the intermediate key value pairs that are provided by the mapper, and it will be applying some of the aggregate function to that particular key value pairs in order to generate the new key value pairs. Next, the phase, that is the last phase of the map task, is a partitioner. The partitioner will be taking the intermediate key value pairs that are produced by the mapper and will be splitting them into the various parts, and it will be sending these parts into a particular reducer as per the user specific code. Usually the key with the same values goes to the same reducer, and the partition data of each map task is written to the local disk of that machine, and it is pulled into the respective reducer. That is, the final output of the map task is produced by the partitioner, and the output of the partitioner is given as an input to the reduce task. The reduce task consists of the phases like shuffle and sort, reduce and the output format. Shuffle and sort. This phase will be taking the output from the partitioner, and they will be downloading them into the local machine where the reducer is running. Then these individual data pipes are sorted by the keys, which will be producing the large data list, and the main purpose of this sort is grouping the similar words so that their values can be easily iterated over by the reduce task. And the output that are produced by the shuffle sort is also in the form of the key value pairs. Next is the reduce. The reducer will be taking the group data that is produced by the shuffle and the sort phase. The group data means that all the values that are having the same keys will be grouped together by the shuffle and the sort phase, and that output will be taken as an input by the reducer. And this will be applying the to this input we will be applying the reduce function and will be processing one group at a time. The reduce function will iterate all the values that are associated with that key, and the reduce function will be providing the various operations to the key value pairs like aggregation, filtering and also combining the data. After doing all this, we will be having the output in the form of the key value pairs, and it is sent to the output format. The output format will be separating the key value pairs with the tab and will be writing it to the file by using the record writer. So we taken the input by using the record reader, and we will be writing the output by using the record writer. This is a figure of the MapReduce framework. So this MapReduce framework mainly consists of two parts, the job tracker and the task tracker. So in the job tracker, the client application will be submitting the job to the job tracker, and after that the job tracker will be talking to the name node in order to determine the location of the data. After locating the data, it will be locating the data to the task tracker, and the job tracker will be submitting the work to the chosen task tracker node. Now the task tracker node is continuously monitored by the job tracker, and if the task tracker do not submit the heartbeat signal to the job tracker, it means that there is some failure in the task tracker, and now it is a duty of the job tracker in order to decide what to do in order to overcome this particular failure. Either it will resubmit the job or it will be blacklisting the task tracker. So after removing this failure, the task will be the process will get started, and when the work is completed, the job tracker will be updating the status as the work is completed. And the second important part is the task tracker. The task tracker will be running on the data node, and here the task tracker will be having the number of slot, and the job tracker will be assigning the task to one of the empty slot that are near to the particular data. And the task tracker is also having the separate processes in order to handle these data. When a particular process finishes successfully or when there is a failure for the data, the task tracker notify that into the job tracker. That is, the task tracker will be notified. If the work is completed successfully, the task tracker will be notifying that the work is completed successfully, or if there is any failure, it will be notifying that there is some failure occurred. And the task tracker will be doing this by sending the heartbeat message to the job tracker, and this heartbeat message is given in order to reassure the job tracker that it is still alive, and also to inform the job tracker of the number of the available slot. And there are some limitations for this MapReduce framework, that is, there is some issues with the small files where the Hadoop is not suitable for the small data. It can handle only the large amount of data, and this is having the slow processing speed, and it will be support only for the batch processing. Then the real-time data processing is not possible in the MapReduce framework, and also the MapReduce framework is very slower, and thus the MapReduce framework is very slower as it supports the different format, structure, the huge volume of the data, and it requires a lot of time in order to complete the map task and the reduce task, and thus there is an increase in the latency. Now let's see about what is big data mining. In the big data mining, one of the important part is Hayes theorem. And the Hayes theorem states that the big data starts with the large volume, heterogeneous, autonomous sources and the distributed decentralized control, and seek to explore the complex and the evolving relationship among the data. From this, we can know that what is Hayes. The Hayes is heterogeneous, autonomous, complex and evolving theorem. So in order to explain the concept of the Hayes theorem, consider this figure. Hope you are familiar with this figure. That is, we are having the 4 blind person, and each of the blind person were assigned to check the various parts of an elephant. So one of the blind person will be identifying the leg of the elephant as a tree, and the body of the elephant as a wall, the tail of the elephant as a rope, and the trunk of the elephant as a hose. So for each of the person, each part of the elephant seems to be as a different object. So in order to get the complete picture of the particular elephant, we need to combine the various heterogeneous data, that is the various data from these blind man, in order to get the clear clear picture of the elephant. That is, aggregating the heterogeneous information from the different sources to help to draw the best picture in order to reveal the genuine gesture of the elephant in the real-time fashion. So this technology or this idea is used in the Hayes theorem. In short, we can say that this is a process of analyzing or gathering the information from the various sources in order to get the complete picture of the data that we require. The three important points that we must consider or we must understand in the Hayes theorem is the huge data with the heterogeneous and the diverse dimensionality, autonomous sources with the distributed and the decentralized control, the complex and the evolving relationship. The huge data with the heterogeneous and diverse dimensionality. One of the fundamental characteristics of the big data is a huge volume, which is represented by the heterogeneous and the diverse dimensionality. We are having the different information collectors and they will be having their own method of data recording. For example, a single human being in the biomedical world can be represented by using the simple demographic information such as gender, age, family disease, history, etc. And the doctors can use X-ray and the CT scan for the detailed examination of their patient. So the different organization will be having their own method in order to analyze the data, and in this the data heterogeneity and the diverse dimensionality issue become the major challenge. Next is the autonomous sources with the distributed and the decentralized control. It is one of the major challenge of the big data application. This is similar to www, which is a World Wide Web, where each web server will be providing the certain amount of information and each server is able to fully function without necessarily relying on the other servers. For example, consider the Google and the Facebook. They are having the large number of servers and these servers are deployed or distributed all over the world in order to ensure the non-stop services and the quick responses for the local market. And these Google, FB, etc. will be providing the solution for the various technical design, and this result in the legislation and the regulation rules in the different countries. For example, consider the Asian market and the North American market. The Asian market of the Walmart will be different from that of the North American market because of the products that are available in both the market or various other characteristics. Next is the complex and the evolving relationship. The volume of the big data is increasing day by day. Along with that, the complexity of the data is also increasing. And the early stage of the data centralized information system mainly focus on finding the best feature value in order to represent the each observation. And we can use the age, gender, income, education, etc. in order to characterize an individual, which is an example. And we can treat each individual as an independent entity without considering their social connection. And also, as another example, we can consider that the people from the friend circle based on their common hobbies or the connection by the biological relationship. Like in the FB and the Twitter, we are having the friendship connection or the friend circle based on the similarities that we are having. We make the connection with the people, and this connection mainly commonly exists in the daily activities, and also it is very popular in the virtual world. The three important points that we must consider or we must understand in the Hayes theorem is the huge data with the heterogeneous and the diverse dimensionality, autonomous sources with the distributed and the decentralized control, the complex and the evolving relationship. The huge data with the heterogeneous and diverse dimensionality. One of the fundamental characteristics of the big data is a huge volume, which is represented by the heterogeneous. Now let's see about the real-time big data analytics or the real-time data analytics. The real-time big data analytics is referred to be the process of analyzing the large volume of data at the moment it is used or at the moment it is produced. It is mainly used for extracting the valuable information for an organization, and the unwanted values or the unwanted data is being eliminated from the system. And the real-time analytics is a form of big data analytics, but rather it mainly focuses on the big data that is produced, consumed or stored within the live environment. And this is mainly used in the various industries or the organization that can produce the large amount of data in a short period of time. This is an image of the real-time data predictive analysis stack. It is mainly proposed by the David Smith, which consists of 4 important layers: data layer, analytics layer, integration layer, and the decision layer. The data layer is a foundation layer or it is a base layer, and at this we are having the structured data like RDBMS, NoSQL, HBase, etc. and the unstructured data like Hadoop MapReduce, then the streaming data in the form of a web, social media, sensors, operating system, and they provide the limited capabilities for performing the descriptive analytics. Here the various tools that are used in the data layer are Hive, HBase, Storm, Spark, etc. Next is the analytics layer. The analytics layer is just above the data layer, as you can see in this figure. It includes the production environment and the development environment. The production environment is mainly used for deploying the real-time scoring and the dynamic analytics, and the development environment is mainly used for building the model. And this layer also includes a local data mart that is updated periodically from the data layer, which is mainly situated near the analytics engine in order to improve the performance. Next is integration layer. The integration layer is just above the analytics layer, and it acts as a glue that holds the end user application and the analytics engine together. And it usually includes a rules engine or a CEP engine, and also an API for a dynamic analytics that brokers the communication between the app developers and the data scientist. Next is the decision layer. The decision layer is a topmost layer, and this can include the end user application such as desktop, mobile, and the interactive web apps, as well as some of the business intelligence software. And this is a layer that the most people see, because as it is a topmost layer, this is the layer that which is visible to the user, and it is the layer at which the business analytics and the various executives as well as the customers interact with the real-time big data analytics system. And each layer is associated with the different set of users, and the different set of users will define the real time differently. Phases in the real-time data analytics. There are mainly 5 phases for the real-time data analytics: data distillation, model development, validation and deployment, real-time scoring, and the model refresh. So the data in the data layer will be crude and messy because it is a foundation layer. So the data in this foundation layer will be having the various unwanted data like noise or various other unwanted things. So it will be lacking the structures that are required for building the model, and also it will be lacking the performance analysis or the performance. So the data distillation phase mainly include extracting the features for the unstructured text, combining the disparate data sources, and filtering for the population of the interest, that is filtering the data that we are having, selecting the relevant features from the data, and also exporting the set of the distilled data to the local data mart. And the second is the model development phase. This phase mainly includes the feature selection, sampling and the aggregation, the variable transformation, model estimation, model refinement and the model benchmarking. And the main goal of this phase is creating a predictive model that is powerful, robust and comprehensible. And the key requirement of the data scientist is to provide the speed, flexibility, productivity and the reproducibility of the data, which is maintained by using this model development phase. And the data scientist will be typically constructing, refining and comparing the dozens of models in the search for a powerful, robust and the real-time algorithm. And next is the validation and the deployment phase. The main goal of this phase is testing the model in order to make sure that it works in the real world. And this validation process involves re-extracting the fresh data and running it against the model and comparing the result with the outcome that run on the data that has been withheld as a validation set. And the next is the real-time scoring. In the real-time system, the scoring is triggered by the action at the decision layer, and the actual communications are mainly broken by the integration layer. In the scoring phase, some real-time system will be using the same hardware that is used in the data layer, but that will not use the same data. In this phase, the deployed scoring rules are diverse from the data in the data layer, and at this phase, the limitations of the Hadoop become apparent, and the Hadoop today is not well suited for the real-time scoring. And the last phase is the model refresh. The data is always changing, so there is a need to be a way to refresh the data and also to refresh the model that are built on the original data. So the existing script or the program that are used to run the data and build the models can be reused in order to refresh the data. The refresh process as well as validation and the deployment can be automated by using the web-based services. So I hope you got a view about what a big data is about. So it is very good to know about the big data analytics because it will be very useful for your future studies. So thank you for listening to me. Thank you so much. And do you have any doubts regarding the big data analytics? So I hope